There was nobody
Right.
doing tacos in a full service environment. Why not? Why couldn't we bring the street food, elevated street food, not just in South America or Mexico, but from around the world? We've got Asian influence and things like that. How do we bring it into a restaurant? How do you take that feeling that you walk in and turn that
Mm.
into a restaurant like no one's ever seen?
Welcome to the Restaurant Leaders Unplugged podcast, where real talks with restaurant leaders take center stage. Discover the challenges and victories that define success in the culinary world. Dive into essential strategies from marketing to operations and gain insights that will transform your approach to your restaurant business. Don't just keep up, lead the way. Join me, your host, Sebastian Stahl, on this journey to excellence. Anthony, welcome to the Restaurant Leaders Unplugged podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
Anthony, so let's start with your story. Love to learn more about your backstory. I know you've been in the hospitality business for quite some time.
Yeah.
A pretty impressive career and working with all these different brands. So can you take us back? What drew you in? How did you get started? And what happened?
Yeah. I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version. But when I was young, I always had just this tie to restaurants. My grandfather used to take us out all the time. And I'm like, man, this is such a cool experience. So you always looked like the mayor. Everybody knew him. And I said, I want to be the guy that makes people feel good in restaurants. And
Yeah.
my first job was washing dishes, as the story goes. When I was young, working for a guy that started Bertucci's back in the day in the Northeast. And just kind of got the bug and went from there. I went to college for and I studied abroad and worked with some companies out in the UK and in Europe. When I came back, I worked for what was Rare Hospitality, is now Darden, with Longhorn Steakhouse, and was there for 7 years and learned all the big box secrets, corporate consistency, things of that nature, and decided that wasn't really the route I wanted to go long term, and jumped in the independent world and started a restaurant group. And 3 restaurants in 2 years is challenging, let alone just doing one.
Pretty crazy, man.
With something else, but it was great. Learned a lot. To go where you've got a big corporate team that has all the answers, and then you have to have all the answers at a young age, is very humbling, but it was great. Learned a lot, but it got a lot of great connections, really got the nitty gritty of what makes brands successful and work and be community driven. And I left them to go work with Del Frisco Restaurant Group. Was like one of the prime points of my career, in my opinion, is just my experience. And like, I spent 7 years watching this company blossom into this behemoth of a steakhouse. It was just
Mm.
amazing that our GMs were like entrepreneurs. They could kind of run the restaurant the way they wanted to. And I covered Boston, New York, Chicago, DC, Denver, and just got to really see the landscape of multi-unit and that
Mm.
high-end clientele and private events and all the things that come with it. And departed from there during a CEO transition and worked for a Michelin chef out of San Francisco, Michael Mina, which was just next level to work next to an individual like that. When you get into
Mm.
that level of dining and sophistication and just really like the thought that goes into it and the story behind every dish, every ingredient and every picture, it was really impressive. And I spent some time with him trying to expand out a concept where we partnered with Aisha and Steph Curry and kind of working real brick and mortar. Most of his restaurants were RMAs and management contracts. Spent a couple of years with him until that lovely word we talked about, COVID, hit. And I diverted out to Denver and worked with a restaurant tech startup called Bird Calls, a COO for them for a while. We built tech in terms of guest interaction, KDS, POS, it was all custom built and all locally sourced. I'm working a QSR style brand, but killer designs by Michael Sue and just some beautiful restaurants. And then my wife wasn't a big fan of Denver, so she wanted to get back to the Northeast. And I came into Bartaco, and Bartaco, one of my mentors used to be the CEO. I knew the brand, just had followed Barcelona and Bartaco for many years. And
Mm.
come up on 4 years, been with the brand and took over as CEO recently. And it's been incredible. Like just learning this, we thread the needle between everything I've done in my career. Fine dining elements in terms of expectations and quality of food and service, but the casualness of brands I've worked with. And it's been just an amazing challenge in corporate intent and grow. I came on, we had 19 units. We just opened up number 34, 35 in 2 weeks. Rapid growth for 3 and change years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I covered like international QSR, Michelin dining. I'm collecting my bingo card. At some point, I'll have them all. But it's
Yeah.
been great. I've loved every one of them. Has really shaped my career, and I've enjoyed every part of every job I've had so far. I can't say one bad thing. So lucky.
Yeah. No. Pretty impressive career, Anthony. And I think everything that happened in the past for you just sets you up for what you're doing now. And I think that's just
100%.
for everybody in this career. So Anthony, so what stands out with Bartaco, which makes it so different? Because I know it's pretty unique in its concept, right?
Yeah.
And how you guys do things. What do you see that's different and that stands out for you?
Yeah, there's a handful of things. I think the most interesting thing is the story, how Bartaco was actually created is initially it wasn't a restaurant. The original founders wanted to find the place, and we started with how it was going to feel. Like when you walked into this business they wanted to build, what was it going to feel like? And they wanted it to feel like this kind of escape feeling that you're sitting on the beach of Uruguay or somewhere in South America, or in just being able to unplug. And it felt like this beautiful beach house, but very welcoming, not where you feel like you got to prance around. And it would be a combination of art and lifestyle and just the music, and all of it just had this really beautiful, friendly, not familiar, but super comfortable environment. And as they started putting it together, the original founders came back from a trip from Uruguay, and there's a 95 in Connecticut, there's a stream of Mexican taco trucks. At the time, no one was doing tacos like this. It was Taco Bell, and Chili's was doing more fajitas right at the time, but there was nobody doing tacos in a full service environment. Why not? Why couldn't we bring the street food, elevated street food, not just in South America or Mexico, but from around the world? We've got Asian influence and things like that. How do we bring it into a restaurant? How do you take that feeling that you walk in and turn that into a restaurant like no one's ever seen? And we spend just as much time. We call it LAM, lights, ambiance, music, and bathrooms. This is a big thing, but we spend more time on just how it feels in the restaurant, the music levels, the lighting, the live plants that we have, like the way every seat is positioned, making sure that all your sight lines, you're not getting distracted by employee pictures and all other stuff like that. But we really are maniacal about the details. And I think that, combined with the fact that our experience, we have like sushi cards you can order from, and we also have digital technology you can order from. You can order however you like. Some of the newer generation enjoys the tech. We see that in Kavas and McDonald's and Chipotle's of the world. That's an option. People that are would rather just use their phone and order quick and be done. We have traditional service that we do with our sushi cards and servers. I think the fact that we're a little dynamic with that feeling puts us in a really different class of restaurant.
Yeah, 100%, Anthony. I've been to a couple of your locations, and really, that's very interesting. I didn't know that the whole way that the concept was created
Yeah,
was through focusing and feeling first. It's incredibly interesting, especially now, I would say, Anthony, because of the ways that things going are in the restaurant industry, as with labor costs, with all that stuff. It's
oh yeah,
becoming hard in terms of margins and being differentiating yourself from everybody else. And
100%.
I think you guys do a tremendous job when
Thank
it
you.
comes to differentiation, because it's exactly what you're talking about. It's the feeling that you get when you step into a location, right? Into Bartaco. And
Yeah,
I exactly had that feeling. It was the one in Tampa.
yeah, yeah,
And I remember walking into this place, and it was the first time I did that. It is like, holy crap! Like, this is a cool vibe. I like being here. You know what I mean? And then the Miami one's a little rowdy, but it's because I'm getting older, I think. But like, everybody there was having a great time,
yeah,
and it's just about, that's what sets you guys apart for sure,
yeah.
amongst other things. But you were talking about, okay, it's 35 locations, Anthony. Of course, now you stepped in as in CEO. I'm assuming that transition is quite an undertaking, right? Like the behind the scenes thing is,
Sure.
hey, Anthony, you go. And now you're doing all of this. So as you scale, and then you guys have been scaling it, I know it's complex because you guys are known for being a people first culture.
That's right.
And are you guys continuing to invest, in maintaining this culture as you scale? And what role does it play in your growth?
It's a great question. I think it's the most important piece of growth. I was
Mhm.
probably meeting with a developer a few months ago, and they asked a question. They said, "How do you make sure you stay Bartaco and don't become the next big box restaurant?"
Mm,
That's honestly what keeps me up at night the most, because I think a big part of what our brand is, it is our people, it is our culture. It's, you can build a beautiful restaurant and have great food, but if the people there aren't living the vibe you want, then it's just another restaurant. And for us, we invest a lot into our people in terms of their development, and not just development of how to write a schedule, how to read a P&L. That's table stakes. We
yep.
spend more of our time on true leadership development, individual development.
Mm,
We had executive coaches for a lot of our team down to the director and manager level, like actually spending time with them, coaching class. We've built what we call Bartaco University internal. We actually have part of a master class to do classes in terms of things that are certain groups of people can work on their personal development. We really try
Wow.
not to take the blanket approach, which I think some people do, of here's a great training program that everybody can go to. We try to look more individualized and look at each person, from a sous chef to a director to a VP, and say, where do you want to improve yourself? Where can you improve yourself for the company? And how can we give you the outlet and resources to do that? That's going to conferences, going to seminars. So we really look at more personalized development programs. And I think that gets people to buy into the brand more. The tenure we have is It's amazing. We have an employee approaching 22 years this year. We have another employee at
Wow.
17 years. We've got a handful at 10. Those people have built the brand. They are the DNA. And we really spend a lot of time celebrating that success. And I think the other thing that really makes our culture a bit different is we celebrate failure in a weird way. Like we want people to try things. We want people to not feel like they're pigeonholed. I always say, I'll give you the guardrails. You drive it any lane you want. And a lot
Mm,
of times everybody's to drive in one lane at one speed at 10 and 2. And I think that's what you lose identity and brand when you do that. If you let people scrape their knees and bump the car a little and drive fast or drive slow, that's where good ideas come. And
mm.
I think that environment spills down to the restaurants, and we just tell them whatever it takes to make the guest happy, get creative and do. And those stories,
Wow.
we share stories every day of, we call it guest for life. What's your guest for life story? And if you don't have one, then we didn't have a good shift. I don't care if we comp
Mm,
sales, if we hit labor, if we didn't make a guest for life, then our job wasn't done. I think those things are starting, to your point, getting lost in the labor strikes and the
mhm.
commodity, everything else. Something has to give, and the people are doing too much intensive work, and we're trying to get back to giving them more time to do the good stuff.
That's fantastic, Anthony. Really, it's pretty unique, honestly, especially what you're talking about with providing like personalized help and growth and where they want to develop.
Yeah.
Haven't heard of a restaurant company that's actually doing that
Yeah.
because
Kudos
it
to my
does require
CPO.
resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but that's great, man, because that requires a lot of resources and a lot of processes that you get to set up in place. And that was my leading up to my next question because, and I think you answered it right now. Usually, right at the executive level, we come up with the ideas of how the culture should be, the values, and all these things, right? But then when it really gets down to the nitty gritty, and for that to trickle down all the way to everybody in the company at the restaurant level, it becomes pretty tricky,
Sure
right?
does.
Because like, how do they really live and represent the company values? And at the end of the day, your team it represents the brand,
That's absolutely right.
right? And it's your best restaurant's marketing.
Absolutely is.
So, how do you guys go about making sure that trickles down to the lower level, if you may, to be able to have a cohesive guest experience?
Yeah. For us, we're in the restaurants all the time. That's the name of the game. A lot of
Mhm.
our directors, a lot of restaurant groups, directors have 8, 10, 12, 16 stores. And it's hard to manage your people the right way. I understand, make sure the message is getting lived all the way down to the
Mm,
bottom. We're in restaurants all the time. I was in 3 of my restaurants in 2 different states this past week alone. And when I go in, I talk to the hourly team. I met
mm,
3 amazing hourly employees in Boulder and 2 other ones I'd met before in Denver. And I just ask them, what do you like about Bartaco? What's your favorite thing? What would you change if you had my job? How can we do a better job supporting you? And those questions, I think, give all of us, not just me, but the executive team, the director team, he gives us the insights that we need to be able to be armed to make great decisions for our people. I think when they realize that there's a voice, okay, my voice actually matters and they're going to do something about it, we create this culture of being able to speak up and challenge. Like it says in our company ethos, we call them touchstones. It says the dishwasher should be able to call the CEO and tell him he's doing a bad job. And we try to find ways to, well, it's hard, right? It's not a perfect world, but we try to find ways to open up those means for
right.
everybody. And I think that's how we make sure it's distilled down is we actually get out, and the expression we use, we stuff our own pits. Like we get the restaurant, like we said, we want this to happen, but is it really happening? What we find out is to get in the restaurant and do it. And that's a huge way that I think we've got checked ourselves in the restaurant. If we want to do initiative, go in, not announce, and just say, how's it working? And ask for feedback. I think that's a little bit different. Most people have been in the operation for a long time. They say, I know the answer. We're going to get together with a couple people, build it out, push it out. And it's no, this is how it's supposed to be. And
Mhm.
I think if you don't ask for feedback, you never get the best version of yourself. It's a big part of how we operate. We're a little bit different than most in that regard. I think that
Yeah.
very introspective, like very much we look for the 1%, not the 99. And
Mm,
that's hard for some people. We don't necessarily always, we'll slap hands and celebrate, but we're also like, where did we miss? What's that 1% we could have done better? And we're
mhm.
relentless about improvement. I think it can be tiring, but it's great for the guests. And overall, it helps create a good culture for the team.
That's interesting. It's fantastic, actually, Anthony. So, Anthony, I know that also the concept is been referred to as next gen casual.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the term thrown around. Can you define the term of next gen? Like just for people that might not be familiar with what it is, because fast
Yeah.
casual, next gen, kind of like all these different terms now. And what do you think consumers are also the next thing is that what do you think consumers are looking for in this modern dining today?
Yeah, I think, listen, the fundamentals haven't changed, right? They want great food, they want great service, they want a great environment. That'll be there long past my time. But I think the next gen component is, I think casual dining, even before COVID, was under a lot of pressure. Like labor pressures, you mentioned earlier, like something had to fundamentally change in the casual dining market, both for the guest and for the operator to make it still profitable, to be growing casual dining restaurant concepts, as well as for the consumer to still get the experience they deserve for what they're paying. Because what people started to do was they would trade down to these fast casual world. So I'm actually getting the same experience, but it's less money. So that's where I'm going to go. It's more about value, less about cost. And casual dining was bringing cost up and service down for a long time. So we fit in this middle ground of, we're not fast casual, we're still casual, but we brought in some level of technology to be able to enhance the experience. We brought in a lot more technology for our team to spend more time with the guests to be able to create a better experience. And we live in the middle of these two worlds. And this is the next generation of casual dining. That there's an incorporation of tech that doesn't take away from the human engagement, but it enables us to not lose execution and service, execution
Yeah.
hospitality,
Yeah.
and it allows us to still maintain margins to an extent with all these things are going on. So the term came up and it feels like it fits us. I'm not sure how we might define it, but for us, that's where we sit.
Yeah.
No one's doing a lot of this yet. We get people asking me often, how do you guys do that again? And more are
Mm.
starting to pick up on it. So we see this as the future of what casual dining will morph into in the
100%. I couldn't agree more. So, what are some of these? That's an interesting topic. Anthony. So, what are some of the, you're talking about tech
yeah.
implementation without taking out the guest experience? What are some of the things that you guys have implemented in terms of technology and also, I mean, that you have now and where are you guys heading? Because AI is getting pretty interesting, as we
Sure
know.
is.
And it's not just interesting, it's getting creepy, weird, cool, interesting.
It
You know
sure
what I
is.
mean? So, so what are you
Um,
guys, what are you guys doing?
yeah, and we've got a handful of things. We initially, post COVID, we went to QR dining, not even just doing the menu, but it was a full order mode on there. And we still have that as an option today. But what that allows us to do is that we're able to utilize AI in a future state. We're going to be able to customize a menu to you. So if you are celiac and you were to scan into our menu, the entire menu is already customized to you. So you don't have to ask any questions, adjust the item. We're customizing it to you. If you come in every time and you always get a reposado tequila, we're going to have a tequila on your table ready to go for you. That's not revolutionary, but the thing is the convenience and customization of it, I think is. I think a lot of what we're looking to do too with the technology is, like, loyalty programs have been touted for a very long time. And I don't think anybody actually has a good loyalty program. I think they have a good frequency program. Starbucks gets great credit for an amazing app, but on my 10th visit, it's just my 10th visit. I get a free coffee and I don't get thanked. There's nothing else. We're really trying to find ways to customize and personalize messaging to people where it feels like, wow, this message was meant just for me. This was customized on my historical data, my information. And I feel like you're only talking to me, even though I might be talking to the masses. And that's where AI's played a massive component in it. And on top of it, for R&D piece, we use a lot of, because we own about 4.5 million individualized records on our guests. We have so much information in terms of what impacts frequency, what impacts basket, what impacts sentiment. And we spend more time than I would probably like to admit, really analyzing this information with AI and saying, like, how should it shape the future of what we offer on the menu, pricing on the menu, how we're really marketing to our guests. So that's in terms of the guest component. And then a really interesting that we've done, work with a company called Solink. It's a camera system, but they've brought in an immense amount of AI to the point of where we're able to track more behaviors that we should probably share publicly. This is where the creepy thing goes into. But we monitor so much in terms of traffic pattern flows and employee flows and guest behaviors. And we're able to do secret shoppers via a camera now. Without the guests, it's fascinating. We can monitor times of everything from drink times to expo times to table turn time. Everything is done just the snap of your fingers. And then we've also built proprietary tech for prep management, prep quality and efficiency that no one else has done yet. So we're able to monitor the individual employee's performance benchmarked against the entire company. So now I know, hey, I need to go coach this person and this is my rock star and I can see quality and consistency. So and that's just scratching the surface. There's a lot more that we do, but we always try to find ways to partner with tech that is going to enhance the employee's time to spend with their team or with their guests, or make less friction for our guests. And that's where our goal is as we look forward with technology. Is it's coming fast and furious, like you said. It's going to
Yeah.
be crazy what's going to be possible, but that
Yeah. Of
human interaction is something we never want to replace. That's the most important
course.
part of a given dining experience.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. It's not going to replace, everybody's looking for that human connection at the end of the day. I think that's
Right.
hospitality with everything. But I think, yeah, leveraging AI as you just mentioned in all these different ways just makes the guest experience even better. So
Yes.
now wages are going to be like the stakes is going to be higher, right? In terms of
Yeah.
like the standard of how things need to happen. And if we don't get on board, the industry doesn't get on board, man, that's going to be tough.
And
So
it's going so fast. You can even be on board until like you're swimming behind it because it's just going so fast.
100%. Listen, I subscribe to all these newsletters for AI stuff. And I always feel like I'm behind.
Yeah. Can't keep up. You
there's
really
so
can't.
much. Can't,
It's
you can't.
wild.
Anthony, I know you guys have also put a pretty bold move when it comes to like wage equity program. Not sure if that's still a part of what you guys are doing. Can you share a little bit of how that works and the impact that it has on the business?
Yeah. So we ran like basically a fully pooled house. And there's a few states we're not allowed to do this, but most of the states you operate are. And effectively, when we went to this digital dining post COVID, there wasn't a server. So that tip was able to be utilized at our discretion. And we basically split that evenly amongst both the front and back of the house. So everybody at a particular shift made the same base wage. They all split the tip pool. So you and I made the same amount per hour worked for the same night. And what it did was create this incredible team environment where two things happened. Like one, the teams that gelled just operated at such a high magnitude that they were making more money than we ever thought. And they're making more money than they can make anywhere else. Dishwashers making $30 an hour or more. What also happened, which was fascinating, is because they started to understand I'm splitting tips with the person next to me. If they're not holding their weight, it
Mm.
became self-governed like accountability inside the restaurant of Sebastian wasn't holding his weight. We knew about it. And not because we had to know his leadership, because the team's like, this one, not so much. And it really increased our productivity. We measured it by sales per labor hours, our efficiency. We went up about $15 over the course of time with this model, which was
Wow.
remarkable, insane. So there was a great efficiency that was found. We've been adjusting into more of that service element now. But the biggest component we shifted back was how do you maintain this kind of equity component of wages so that there isn't too much disparity. Our goal was to make sure that every employee in the restaurant made a living wage. We didn't want them to feel
Wow.
like they had to have 3 and 4 jobs. And that's kind of always been our target, is to make sure that we're taking care of the team that takes care of our guests.
That's an incredible story, Anthony. And I'm assuming so that's still implemented. That's the way that the restaurants work,
That's right.
where you can't. Wow. That's pretty cool. And so, Anthony, can you give us a peek into then what the next few years for Bartaco look like?
Yeah, we've got some growth coming up. We just opened in Jacksonville. We opened a new concept as well in Jacksonville, a rooftop there. We got a couple of openings this year. So we'll continue to infill some markets and look at some new markets. But I think in terms of the brand, we love the brand. We think it's really strong, but we want to continue to find ways to lead at this level of dining in terms of guest experience engagement. We've got a
Mm.
handful of ways that we're doing it. I don't want to share too many of the trade secrets of what we're going on behind the scenes, but
Yeah.
for us, we want to be synonymous with the leaders in guest experience in the casual dining market. And we spend all of our time thinking about it, ideating behind it. That's where I think the next couple of years will be for us, is that you're going to see some incredible experiential items go on. So I think that's where a lot of the world is going. Is there's the value piece, which is very dominant, as we all know from all the articles that are going out. But I think more than the value is what you get for the dollar. And that comes with
Mm.
experience. That comes with events that are going out at the restaurant, or unexpected prizes or surprises and delights that come with the restaurant. Those types of things and experiential dining, I think, are really what we're going to put some time behind. I think
Yeah.
that's really what guests are going to be excited about. So lots to come in terms of what we've got on the horizon for the
Yeah.
next few years.
Very cool. Very cool. And Anthony, let's just switch gears here really quickly because, of course, this is a Restaurant Leaders Unplugged podcast, right? It's about
Yep.
leadership as well. And of course, you're in a leadership position. And leadership is not just about guiding the team. It's really often defined by tough moments, right? That we live through as leaders. Can you share a time or a moment that you've had just one of your most difficult times as a leader in your career?
Yeah. It's actually a funny story. It was very early in my career, but it still makes impact now. I got promoted to be a general manager at a very young age. I was the second youngest employee in the restaurant, expected to lead a team of people, some of them were like my parents' age. And I followed a GM that was there for a very long time. He was a very well guy, built a great culture. And as a young, probably overly cocky and confident kid, I thought I'd conquered the world already. And I got frustrated. My team kept saying, was here, was here. I said, he's not coming back. And it's, if you guys don't want to be here, you have to be here. And I walked into my office. It was before a Friday lunch service. And a young girl named Adria, I don't know if her name, knocked on my door. And she said, Anthony, I said, what do you need, Andrew? And she said, everybody left. I said, what do you mean? She said, they're all gone. And my lunch team walked down on me. They called me, they called my bluff. Luckily, I worked for a big enough company where I called my boss. I was like, I made a really big mistake. And we sat at the restaurant. I apologized to my team. And I look back now and I can chuckle, but at the time, again, a very young age as a leader, I've learned not only the power of your team, but the power of the team being behind your message at a really young age, and knew that that team was behind the previous leader for what they had built in terms of culture. And they were not behind my messaging, nor should they have been the way I was running at that time. But it taught me an amazing lesson in being humble and humility and the power of taking care of your people the right way. You got to push them and you got to hold them accountable. But at the end of the day, we hire employees and humans show up to work. And it's often forgot. I didn't know that at a young age. I was naive. And while it was such a young age, it's never left me. Like to this day, as running Bartaco now, that never will leave that message. And there's been plenty of hard times, but that by far was the most impactful experience in my life. And I'm thankful it happened at such a young age. I really am.
That's a great story. And it brings me back to thinking about it. A similar story that happened to me when I was in business. And it was kind of similar scenario. I thought I was like doing things well. And basically that time was my partner and boss as well. He was the CEO of the company. Hey, seems like you're not really doing a great job here. And he puts me in front of all this, everybody that the team in the restaurant is okay, one by one, go and say what this guy is doing wrong. And I was just like,
Jeez.
I wanted to crawl under the earth, man. I was like, this
Literally.
is wrong, man.
Oh,
I gotta listen to this. And because I thought I was hot shit, like at some
yeah.
point.
Oh, yeah.
And it wasn't true. So the humility component, Anthony,
It's huge.
it's huge. As being leaders, it requires self-awareness and awareness of others. And
Absolutely.
so, Anthony, what are some of your values as a leader that you think that you try to follow and stick to, and that also, of course, I think, will trickle down to into the company?
Yeah. I mean, there's a handful of things. I think the one thing comes down to the fact of just being ethical in business and with my people and like caring about that side of the thing has always been important to me. If we're going to do things the right way, we're going to do what we say and say what we do. I don't believe in dog and pony shows. I don't believe in dressing up the pig. To me, this is what it is. Let's call it black and white. Let's just not try to beat around the bush. It's always just been a big part of what's important to me in terms of value. I also am huge on transparency. I did these political games that are played in so many companies. Saw it when I worked for Big Box, and it's all politics. And politics get in the way of getting things done. To me, if someone's not doing a job, I'm going to tell them. If they're doing a great job, I'm going to tell them. I want them to do the same thing for me. And I think that's a really big thing, is just being honest and open. Obviously, I shared that humility is an important piece for many reasons. But I think the one that really resonates to me, it's a part of the brain too, which is what drew me to it, is like we say in our ethos, like we are good people. And I think that's a huge piece that's often forgotten. Like you look at, we've all had leaders that have driven us hard, but you look back, well, I was really thankful for that person because they're probably a good person. May have pushed you hard, may have been tough on you. It was most likely because they saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself. And I value immensely like the power of push. You're almost there. My job is to push you up that ring. I've had managers that joke and they say, just when I'm about to touch the bar, you move it up the ring. Because you can do more. And then when you do it again, like you build this kind of confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
I really value kind of pushing limits in unconventional ways. Long answer. Sorry, it was a good question.
No, that's a great answer, Anthony. So personally for you, Anthony, like what do you do to stay, I guess, I'm not sure that the word is right, but not only engaged, but like, how do you improve your leadership skills, and how are you improving yourself as a person to be the leader that you're needed to be, not just in this role, but of course, and they were talking before we started the interview,
Yeah.
as a father,
Yeah.
because I think that's the toughest job in the world. More-
Sure
well,
is.
I think a mother's work is harder, but
Oh yeah. No, they've got to
uh,
speak. They've got to speak.
you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
so personally, what are some of the things that you do? Books, mentors, like what are the things that you do to keep yourself in check and grow?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a list. Books 100%. Looking, I've got three next memo. I always am usually reading like two books and one audiobook, so three at a
Yeah.
time. I actually started a book club with team members of my company that like it rotates so we can continue to read and grow together. But I read a ton, like a lot of podcasts,
Yeah.
things like that, just of other leaders in the industry. I've had an executive coach a number of years that's been just really helpful navigate those challenging situations as an unbiased
Yeah.
opinion. I've been fortunate to have a handful of really good mentors in this industry that I keep good contact with, and they've helped guide me and inspire me. But I think a lot of it learning comes from like the network and from my people. Just I listen to earnings calls all the time from all these companies, and every call is, oh, that's it just gets the mind going and gets you thinking
Mhm.
outside the box a little bit.
Yeah.
So that kind of keeps me going in terms of that. And the last piece I mentioned earlier is I asked my team. My team, I have
Mm.
this routine practice in the company. It took a while to get used to it, but about every 3 to 6 months, I bring my team on a call and I said, I want you to tell me everything that I can do better as a leader for you. And this is, there's no
Mm.
retaliation. It's truly honest. I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to listen. And the first time everybody was like, no chance. Like, I'm not telling my boss where he's messing up. And it got to a point where it became normal. And not only did I enjoy the feedback, but I was able to act. And it let
Mm.
me know, hey, I have a gap in terms of I don't know, communication. And I would then say, okay, I'm going to read some books on it. I'm going to go to seminars on this. I'm going to talk to their effective in this. So I really shaped
Mm.
what I've focused on as a leader based off of real feedback, the
Mm.
360, I guess, term technically, but I go direct to the team. Let me have it. And once one or two speak up, and now it's normal.
Everybody.
And at first it was awkward. And like the first call for somebody new was awkward, but I love it. I think it's one of the best things I've done with my team. And
Mm.
I think they enjoy it. They get a chance to unleash on me for an hour.
I bet that's great, and I think that's it's very wise because that's we're talking about humility, and that's the only way that we can look at ourselves many times because
That's
we're
right.
blindsided. You know,
Yeah.
we can't really see. Oh, we just go. We have these certain patterns way of thinking, and we're just like behaving in a certain way, and we overlook these things.
Yeah.
Having that openness and humility to allow your team to be that honest with you, I think it's not only it's great, but it's the path to growth. You know, and that
I
applies
do.
also, Anthony, everywhere. Have you asked your wife like what she really honestly thinks about it?
I'll have to ask her. So,
I'm a blood.
yes, he tells me. She tells me. Well, then let me ask.
So yeah, and I tried to apply that as well. Okay, we have this meeting. So she's like, "Where are we at?" You know,
Yeah.
it's like, let me have it because they won't say everything at once,
Oh, no.
but it's been helpful.
Yeah. It definitely helps. But it's, and that, like you said, it's a challenge too. It's a challenge to balance it
No,
at home too.
yeah,
And need to hear that feedback. Even my kids are young. I still ask them and still try to be engaged with them as much as possible. And
yeah,
they'll tell me as well, which is good.
yeah. No, of course. Anthony, what advice would you give operators or rising leaders that want to move from where they're at to really leading brands and getting to these high roles?
Yeah. It's a great question. I think a lot of times when you get into certain roles, especially in operations in particular,
Mm.
you get caught up with the X's and O's of this has got to be here, this has got to be here. I want to be the best at keeping things in line. That's just that operator mentality component. But I think a lot of times because this business is so consuming 24/7, right? You joke in the beginning, it's Friday, but that's really when we get started. That's when our business kind of
Mhm.
peaks up. You don't get as much of an opportunity to really zoom out. And you need to get to 30,000 feet to be able to fight at 5 feet, right? I oftentimes don't see it all the times. They rely too much on their boss or their boss's boss to do that for them. And at least in my opinion, people that I constantly look for development and growth and future potential are those that are challenging the norms. I think that's a big piece that some people are afraid to do. It's my boss, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it better than he or she expected. And that's when I'm going to
Mm.
excel. And that's good to a certain extent. I think to lead brands, to really be industry leaders, to make a statement, to stand out, you got to dare to be different. And by doing that, you got to be able to challenge and fight and think outside the box. And that's not easy for people to do. You just get so consumed with the day to day. And I think that's crucial. I think it's really important to make sure you've got good mentors.
Yeah.
Too many
Yeah.
people think they have to wait till they get to a certain level, and at that point, they could just comes. It's great. It's incredible. I'll tell you, I've said so many people, it's so easy. I ask people, and they just say yes. I said it's because people seldom ask. It's like you think about how many amazing people in our industry and amazing leaders are out there, and how much help they're willing to give in so many ways, and people rarely ever ask. So it's welcome. Like, I have a few people that I mentor, and I love that time. That fills my tank, and also it gets me going. It's my juices flowing, and I think it's the biggest thing that people missing is they just think I'm just going to get really good at my job, and I'll just get what comes to me. So you got to get out there and find somebody that's gone through it, talk to them, and let them
Mm.
help mentor you through the way. I think that's been my success. They said earlier, I've had amazing mentors, and they've helped guide me through some of the tough times in my career. And I think
Yeah.
I've been able to excel because of their mentorship.
100%, Anthony. I mean, I love everything that you're saying, man. You're preaching to the choir here, but in terms of, we just need that, right? We need that
Yeah.
support. And it's like, we're talking about humility again and again, it comes up because that's the only way to grow,
Yes, sir.
by being honest with ourselves and then just getting outside help and recognizing that we can't do it alone.
Yes, exactly.
I think we're just as strong as our support team or group of
100%.
people.
I tell my team, you can do the job without me, but I can't do the job without you.
Yeah.
That's the true reality. And you got to be able to embrace that and lead that way.
That's great, Anthony. Anthony, final question. So
Yeah.
if you could define your legacy of Bartaco in one sentence,
Ooh.
what would you want it to say and why?
Oh, man. That's a great question. You define my legacy of Bartaco in one sentence. Wow. I'd say constant, gentle pressure with amazing people support. That'd be it.
That's a great answer.
That's a hard one.
Summarize.
That's a great finishing question.
You summarized everything we just talked about in one sentence. See, we talked so much shit, and now this is the
Yeah, did you see that? That would have been it.
sounds. So that was great, Anthony. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
It's really a pleasure to have you. I think we got some amazing insights here that we'll share with everybody. So Anthony, so if somebody, of course, they'll find Bartaco online. I think everybody knows about Bartaco. Any like the new concepts, what were they? If somebody doesn't know about them, they go see.
We have one new concept. It's a rooftop in Jacksonville in 5 Points. Just opened up on Wednesday.
Oh,
And Long Island opens up in the first week of April.
cool. Definitely check that out. All right, Anthony, thank you so much.
Thanks again. Appreciate it.
All right, take care.